Hey, Texas Values friends, Jonathan Sines here, president of Texas Values. I'm coming to you again from inside my dining area, breakfast area, where I've got a little somewhat of a studio set up, probably just like you. And this is part of what we're doing with these videos, trying to meet you where you are. I know a lot of people have been making adjustments over the past couple of days, maybe the past couple of hours, the past couple of weeks, as we see a lot of things changing. We see a lot of updates from government officials. That's one of the reasons we're bringing you these series of Facebook Live, Zoom videos, interviews, what have you, about how the coronavirus is impacting your Texas Values and how it's impacting a lot of issues that we're all grappling with. Just to kind of, and our team is working from home. Just so you know, we've also taken measures to be a good community partner, try to make things safe, but also recognize we got to still do the work that we do. And as there's a lot of things going on with the government, a lot of things happening, we want to make sure your values are protected. And when there's new information that relates to some of the work that we do, we want to keep you informed of that as well. But just a couple of things regarding the coronavirus is what we hear: close to 60,000 cases now in the United States, over 1,000 cases here in Texas, 12 or 13 deaths so far, I think, and who knows where things are going to lead. And so I know we're all trying to make these adjustments. That's why we're working from home. But we've got some great technology that we're all taking advantage of, including school children, I think, and many families across the state and across our country. But we have an opportunity to have a special guest today, particularly because of the important work that he does, but also because of something that happened earlier this week as it relates to an executive order by Governor Abbott, and as it relates to impacts on issues we work on, like protecting life. So we're excited that we've got a chance to interview today our 51st Attorney General of the state of Texas, Ken Paxton. Welcome to our Facebook Live video. General Paxton, we're glad you're on.
Hey, thanks, Jonathan. I appreciate you having me on. I know it's a very strange time for all of us. So it is amazing that we have this technology that we can still communicate without spreading the virus.
Well, absolutely. And we know that you're taking measures as well. And so for our listeners and viewers, you're going to hear General Paxton come in on audio. We're going to be on video. And then after General Paxton leaves the interview, we've got a special segment with myself and Texas Values Policy Advisor Mary Elizabeth Castle on some things that relate to the issues that we're going to talk about. So stick around for this whole video, but we want to go right into things as it relates to the work that Attorney General Ken Paxton and this team is doing. Just as a reminder, Attorney General Ken Paxton is the top law enforcement officer for our state. So it's important that he's in that position to analyze these things that are happening with executive orders, and also to be a part of the enforcement to make sure laws are followed. But the reason for doing that is to make sure that people are protected and the application of these laws are applied the right way. So let's talk about what happened a couple of days ago. That's the subject of this first half of this Facebook Live in this video. And the main subject of it is having General Paxton on to talk about the executive order from Governor Abbott. I'm holding a copy of it here, and this is Executive Order GA-09. It came out on March 22nd. And the executive order really was about addressing some concerns. Okay, these were about issues of shortage of hospital capacity, the need for personal protective equipment, the need to have the most hospital capacity we can, to have the most protective equipment we can, and concerns about those resources being depleted by surgeries and procedures that are not medically necessary. And so the executive order from Governor Abbott came out on March 22nd, just a couple of days ago, I believe on Sunday afternoon, but it also relates to issues for hospitals and medical procedures. And so just going to the end of it, this started on March 22nd, goes through April 22nd, but makes it clear that all licensed healthcare professionals and all licensed healthcare facilities that they shall postpone all surgeries and procedures that are not immediately necessary to correct a serious medical condition or preserve the life of a patient. And Attorney General Paxton, just not too long after that, your team weighed in with a letter making it clear that this applies to dermatological issues, ophthalmological issues, and dental procedures, but also relates to procedures where abortions would be performed. I'd love to have you talk to our listeners a little bit about that letter and why it was important for you to make it clear that there wasn't an exemption for abortion providers.
Well, I think you summarized it pretty well. you covered the highlights and the details of exactly what that executive order does. And obviously, it was designed to protect our hospitals so that they weren't just, they were doing things that were serious because of the risk of having a big influx of people that have coronavirus or other medical conditions. And so, it makes sense, I think, what Abbott did. He's trying to clear the hospitals and the medical community out so that they can focus on the crisis at hand, and we can have people put off procedures that can be done later, so that they're done later. And the truth is, abortion, for the most part, is an elective procedure that can be done later. And so we wanted to make it clear that all medical procedures we would be watching, that all medical procedures that were unnecessary should be stopped, and that definitely includes elective abortion.
Well, and it's not as if this is the only issue that's covered in the executive order. And I gave a little bit of detail there, and that wasn't that was the reason specifically that Governor Abbott issued this executive order. It was about concerns about hospital capacity, about the number of protective equipment. We see some businesses right now that are usually not in a part of producing medical equipment. They've jumped in. What a great example of the teamwork and as I saw one of my friends post American exceptionalism. All these companies that are jumping in to try to produce all of a sudden this medical equipment that's in short need. And so this executive order was about making sure we have priorities in place for those things, for life-saving issues and others, and to make them available and to set aside these things, at least for now, that are not medically necessary. So it's not just about the abortion issue, but your letter helped to make it clear that it does apply to those. And I'm just going to read a quote that you had from your website. We must work together as Texans to stop the spread of COVID-19 and ensure that our healthcare professionals and facilities have all the resources they need to fight the virus at this time. No one is exempt from the governor's executive order on medically unnecessary surgeries and procedures, including abortion providers. And, look, we've seen this happen in other states. It's not like Texas is the only one. Ohio's doing this. And there's a lot of talk around the country about, look, let's keep our priorities straight. You think about protecting the most vulnerable. That's where the priorities should be. Unfortunately, we see other people that they care more about their political agenda of supporting abortion and putting that above what we're all doing right now, which is trying to make adjustments for the most vulnerable as it relates to the coronavirus.
Well, Jonathan, you're exactly right. This is obviously going to save some lives, which we hope will continue on. But it also just makes sense. And I don't even see how people that are on the other side of this issue at this time would dispute the fact that we need our hospitals to take care of the really sick. And if we don't do that, we're going to have people that potentially die or in a lot worse medical shape with longer periods of recovery than we otherwise would. And so hopefully everybody gets this, even people who disagree with us on the pro-life issue, and we can work together to save human life.
Well, and look, these are things that are happening moment by moment, hour by hour. We see the statistics going up and increasing in some areas of the country more than others. You would hope that we could all agree on these basic principles, right? And that industries, if you will, like the abortion industry, would not think that they somehow should not have to be a part of this process of setting aside what's medically necessary at this point. Look, I don't think abortion is essential health care, and maybe some others do, but there should be some things that we can agree on this time, as you were pointing out, and your team has been active every day. I'm sure even though they maybe some of them are working remotely or wherever they are, I bet you guys, it seems like you are putting in quite a bit of hours, and we appreciate you for the work you're doing and highlighting this issue.
Well, there's no doubt my staff, I told them at the beginning that we may have to adjust as far as the types of things we're working on, but we all need to be willing to do that and help people. And so we're doing a lot of different things that we, otherwise might not be doing in normal life. But I think that's the way Texans operate. And we're no different. And so we have been very busy focusing on not just our regular job, like we have price gouging issues right now, so we're dealing with that, and we are constantly getting asked questions both at the state level, the local level, city, counties, about what can we do during this period? What are our options as it relates to the governor's emergency powers and other powers that are granted by the legislature during crises like this? So it's kept us busy in areas that normally we're not focused on, but it's important that we help people right now.
Well, look, I mean, and not to forget, right, for all of us to remember, Texas has one of the largest economies in the world. We're the 10th largest economy in the world. And so our population is large. A lot of attention a lot of times comes onto Texas, what's Texas doing. So it's great to see you and your team of 4,000 employees. And many of them are probably doing a lot of different things, as you mentioned, maybe really pitching in wherever they can, because people are looking to Texas a lot of times. What are Texas leaders doing? And so it's great to have your leadership in our state and doing whatever it is you can. New issues, like you mentioned, price gouging, coming up, and other issues that maybe you've dealt with before, maybe your team's dealt with before, but maybe not to the particular degree. And that's what I talked about at the beginning of the video, meeting people where they are. And so hopefully we'll see people to stop being political, the pro-abortion side, to try to focusing on their political agenda, and instead of that, focusing on what we're all trying to do about right now, who the most vulnerable are. And so, and that's where our focus has been too, to give good information. And so I'm looking at your website, the website, texasattorneygeneral.gov. I think would be a great resource if people need to go to, if they've got questions about things that they're dealing with on these issues right now.
No, that's a great place to go, Jonathan. And look, we still have a lot of our normal functions. We're dealing with child support. We have 1.6 million cases a year that we deal with. And so we're trying to adjust with a lot of our people being home and figuring out ways to basically telecommute and answer phone calls even while people are at home. So we've definitely had some challenges in trying to keep up with the volume, because child support issues don't go away just because there's a coronavirus. And so, we're adjusting and hopefully starting to meet needs that need to be met.
Well, Attorney General Paxton, we appreciate your time. We know you've got a number of things that you've probably got to attend to, other priorities. We appreciate you taking time. For us mentioning that website link, texasattorneygeneral.gov is a great website. And look, we'll be praying for you and your wonderful wife, Senator Angela Paxton. I know she's hard at work for the members of her Senate district and your family as well. So God bless you. Know that we're praying for you and we're thinking about you. And we continue to appreciate your leadership for our great state of Texas.
Hey, thank you for your prayers. I know that Angela appreciates that too, because they're obviously having to deal with issues in the legislature as well, to figure out how to deal with budget issues and how to direct money right now. So thank you very much. We appreciate your prayers. We need them.
Thank you, General Paxton. Well, great to have him on for a little while to really carve out 10 or 15 minutes, of which is, I'm sure, a busy schedule, probably busier than normal, but they probably keep a really busy schedule. I know people in that office and that team that are just working around the clock a lot of times during the legislative session, giving people insight, but many times here when crises come out of nowhere, when there's some type of emergency, they are one of the first to be responsive. And so we're appreciative of that. We're going to bring into the video Mary Elizabeth Castle, Policy Advisor for Texas Values. One of the things that came up, it's been coming up, is these local shelter-in-place orders. And a lot of questions have been coming into our office now that it's starting to impact more people. And one of those places where it came in was as it relates to pregnancy care centers that give out free resources like diapers, that give out resources for mothers and babies that are in immediate need, that have maybe just delivered or that they're pregnant, giving out formula, all kinds of things. And so, Mary Elizabeth, you read through the city of Austin, where our office is located, a shelter-in-place ordinance from yesterday. I know there are others in other parts of the state, but our analysis is, let's pull up this memo that we pulled together, that when it comes to the pregnancy centers, that because of some exceptions in this order from the city of Austin that relate to nonprofits or relates to charitable efforts, that pregnancy care centers would be allowed to continue to provide those resources of diapers and formula and things of that nature that are essential. I mean, these are things that these mothers and babies need to live.
Yeah, that's right, Jonathan. As you know, the pro-life movement is not just about, keeping babies alive, but it's about supporting those mothers who may be in a situation where they cannot afford certain things for their children once that baby is born. And we have a plethora of centers here in Austin that do that very thing of providing baby formula, diapers, even clothes to mothers who suffer because of economic reasons. And you're right, because of the city ordinance realized that there are some people who need food, who need certain toiletries or certain type of items to help maintain their health and safety, that centers that help economically disadvantaged people with providing those things actually are allowed to stay open, even with the stay in place order. So that's what our conclusion was. And so that includes all the pregnancy resource centers too, because they provide these resources to mothers who are economically disadvantaged or cannot afford to get diapers or baby formula or other items anywhere else.
Well, and look, we haven't broken down every shelter in place local ordinance across the state of Texas. There's been maybe quite a few at this point, but if you have questions specifically about one of them, send an email to our office. You can email us at info@txvalues.org, info @txvalues.org, and we'll do our best to take a look at that and break it down. It's not just Mary Elizabeth and I either. We've got a number of members of our team that have a substantial background when it comes to law and policy, so we can take a look at these things and try to do our best to give you some feedback. And these are essential services. When you think about the role that, I think there are over 200, if not more by now, pregnancy centers across the state of Texas that are meeting the needs on a daily basis for women and for children that would have nowhere else to go or would not have a connection. And so I think some of them too are almost doing like a drive-through method, right? Like a drive-through restaurant. We're seeing those continue to be open where people can get drive-through or takeout. So no different here. But it was great, really for us to be in a position to answer those questions because, they're coming with not a lot of notice when it comes to these executive orders that are kind of breaking every hour a day.
Yeah, that's right, Jonathan. So it's very good that, we're able to analyze this and see that they can still help people in this time of need. A lot of people are running out of resources, and people who are the most vulnerable, especially children, who are born in these situations, need these supplies. And so it's very good that we were able to look at this ordinance and see that these centers can remain open. Now, for different cities, like Jonathan said, please email us. As far as I looked, I think Dallas has a similar provision where if you're a center that serves economically disadvantaged people, which would include a pregnancy resource center, you're also able to stay open and serve those people. And of course, pay attention to the fact that while you're there serving, you do have to adhere to the 6-foot distance, washing your hands, and other provisions that the stay in place order provides.
No, that's a very good point. We don't want to, we want them to continue to provide that service, but also be mindful of just some common sense ways that we're all being told with the social distancing and washing hands and things of that nature. So that's good. Look, an update on churches. Okay. Interesting kind of situation for churches over Sunday and moving forward. I know the church I attend, they have a church service daily. Okay. So they're continuing to put those online, maybe your Bible study, whatever. So continue to check in with your church or other churches that you may know about. If you want to get those resources, if you want to have that connection in person, check that. I think I even saw, and I don't know if it was true, but some resources regarding, a drive-through line for confessions for, those Catholics like myself and communion. It's really encouraging to see the way, I guess you could say, creative ways that people are trying to still engage with people of faith that they care about. I think I saw one article we posted where they're kind of at a drive-through place, or everybody got in the parking lot and the pastor was at the pulpit, at least 6 feet away. But so look, we want to encourage that too. If there's a creative way for you to be mindful of what, at least for now, the government's asking you to do and ordering you to do in some situations, but you want to stay connected with the people in your church, we encourage that. And if we can answer any of those questions, you can send those also to info@txvalues.org. We're happy to do that. Don't forget, though, the State Board of Education could still be meeting in 2 or 3 weeks on sex ed. We still have these issues going on with Austin ISD. Now that kids are back in school, you should be looking for a way to send that opt-out form at Austin ISD to opt out of sex education, because we're still fighting against this radical version of sex education that promotes the abortion industry, that promotes LGBT issues, and much further than that. I mean, really just almost devoid of science in a lot of areas, trying to make kids feel uncomfortable with saying they have a mother and father at home. It's way over the top. But Mary Elizabeth, we're also starting to do some work too to prepare for the legislative session. Even though the Texas Capitol, I don't know if y'all know this, but probably makes sense now, is closed to public, and really not a lot of employees are going there now. But that doesn't mean that the legislative calendar has changed, at least at this point, starting next January. So we're already starting to do some prep work on that. And some of these hearings have been postponed, but we can't just sit here and do nothing. We've got to be prepared. That way, things hopefully turn around and get better. We're ready to go right back to work on those issues.
Yeah, that's right. At the moment, the interim hearings have been postponed for a minute, but please stay tuned to see what's going on in this interim as we're preparing for the next session. There will be several things coming up on the calendar, and please stay tuned.
Yeah, well, and look, it was great to have Attorney General Ken Paxton on our call earlier and to really give us an update on what happened, what the analysis was on the governor's executive order that came out on March 22nd that really was about making sure we prioritize the hospital bed space and hospital resources for the immediate needs to deal with the coronavirus right now. And because of that, the governor ordered that all licensed healthcare professionals and healthcare facilities shall postpone, and I'm just reading from his executive order, and see, I've got it in my hand, shall postpone all surgeries and procedures that are not immediately medically necessary. And Attorney General Attorney General Paxton followed that with a letter of his own saying, hey, just in case you're wondering, this also applies to abortion procedures. And so it also applies to dermatological procedures, ophthalmological, that's a mouthful, dental procedures, but it also includes abortion procedures that are not medically necessary to preserve the life or health of the mother. And so that was the subject of his call with us, an update earlier, but also we heard a little bit about what he and his team are continuing to do on an hour, minute by minute basis to really adjust to all that's happening and to try to keep us safe, as he is the top law enforcement officer for our state. The last thing I want to mention, Mary Elizabeth, I got to talk about people giving donations. Look, we are seeing a decrease in response on that from our level. We are a nonprofit organization. To be able to pay for the resources and the technology to have calls like this, to have very smart, intelligent people like Mary Elizabeth and others that are part of our team. You should have seen how quick she put together this memo yesterday on this issue for pregnancy centers, because that's what we're doing. Okay, we're staying abreast of those things, but we're also trying to prepare for things getting back to normal with the normal legislative work we do. We're probably going to be involved with the Texas Supreme Court case that's coming up. That's going to be decided soon on parental rights. We're looking at some work we're trying to do at the U.S. Supreme Court to protect religious liberty while we're in this interim. But as soon as the Texas legislature gets going again, we got to get right on that and prepare for that. So even though we're probably maybe getting a little bit more rest since we don't have our normal commute, we need your support financially. We actually added a new member to our team. I'm going to introduce this person next week. You don't want to miss this. But we added a new member of our team. So we're growing, but that was like 4 weeks ago before all this came down. We made that commitment. We need your financial support. Go to txvalues.org, make a tax-deductible donation today. Our budget is close to $1 million a year. We have 12 people working for us that are part of our team. So in order to continue to help them feed their families and do the work we do, we got to have your financial support. We hope you see value in the work we're doing and a return on that. But these are tax-deductible donations. Go to txvalues.org right now. Please make a tax-deductible donation for our work. We think this is the best investment you can make for faith, family, and freedom in Texas. And we're looking forward to having some more updates for you in a couple of days. Remember, our weekly radio show is going to continue, even though we might have to adjust our technology. That's going to be Friday morning on Facebook, and then it'll be available on audio later. But we've got a lot of new resources on our website as it relates to this and issues on faith, family, and freedom with the COVID things that are going on, new ordinances, all kinds of good stuff. Go to our website, txvalues.org, and we'll be updating you soon on our Texas Values Facebook page.